What's up, internet? My name's Ori. Welcome back to the channel. It is Thursday, August 1st, day number 17 inside the Big Brother house. Lots to go over. We had the veto episode to cover from last night, including the Angela Bat Group controversy. It's also eviction day, so we have the votes to sort out through. Plus, is Tucker problematic? I don't think so, but we got to talk about it. And all that and more from the live feeds yesterday. But first, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button. You've liked this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. Let's jump into the episode. We saw lots of focus on Quinn and all of his alliances. We've been covering that with our alliance charts here. I think I could bring that up. Quinn's everywhere. He's all over our alliance chart. So not too surprising with that. We then also saw kind of the main point of this episode. We saw Angela pointing out the group of Cam, Chelsie, Cedric, Takor as a group to Quinn. She kind of pulled him over. She was like, see, out on the hammock out there, you see them talking? That's the group. Now, there's a little bit of a misunderstanding on whether or not she meant like that's a group to look out for, that's a group to work with. She says work with, maybe that was after the fact, doesn't matter. Quinn took it as like that's a group to look out for because like they're a group. Quinn's saying like, wait a minute, those are all people I'm working with, right? Like, especially T-Core. Like I'm pretty close to T-Core. I just did the whole visionary things. Like I kind of like her. So I'd rather this not be a thing. There were undertones as well when he went to go tell T-Core about this, and then she went to go tell Cedric. That's when it really started to feel like it kind of changed a little bit, where it felt like race was being brought into it, and it felt like T-Core was the one who was bringing it up the most. In fact, they even edited it in a way where she was talking about the cookout and, you know, Cam, Chelsie, Cedric, and herself all kind of looking out for each other. And there was a call kind of all talking about it as Angela is pointing them out. Now, whether that was the actual conversation that was happening in that moment, it did seem like that, but also just be the way they were editing. Nonetheless, there was conversations of them working together, and 3 of the 4 of them are in a legitimate alliance of the core Triple C. We know that they're a very big alliance in this game right now. So Quinn told Takor then told Cedric. We didn't get too much of it after that. We then went to the veto ceremony, the veto competition, which was, you know, the stacking shapes comp. We kind of knew that from the little bits we were getting from the feeds. Classic competition. This one seemed to kind of particularly hard because there were big O's. They were doing like, you know, zeros and ones, like a binary code. So it was like zeros and squares, kind of circles and squares. And those circles were really hard to balance. They would like to roll a lot. Kenney crushed this, though. It wasn't even close. Like, no one else was building their tower anywhere close to how tall Kenney got his. He crushed it. He wins it. And, you know, I'm kind of starting to buy into the idea that maybe all this like quitting talk that we're hearing on the feeds, maybe he is playing into that a little bit to downplay his threat. Maybe he does just want to play in those vetoes and the AI comps to kind of keep himself safe because he doesn't feel like he's trusting of anybody at the moment, and maybe he can build those bonds later. I'm not 100% sure. It could all be for strategy. He could actually want to quit still, but I think I'm starting to buy into it a little bit more. That he's just trying to kind of play possum a little bit, and hopefully that people won't pay too much attention to him. We did then get into some more of the whole group situation. Cedric then went and told Chelsie, and Chelsie is the type of person that she's like, well, I'm not just going to sit on the information. I'm going to go talk to Angela. So she confronts Angela on the whole situation, and it actually goes pretty well. It does then make Angela kind of spin. Chelsie handles it great, where she's like, yeah, well, I mean, like, we're cool. Just don't be going spreading information like that, right? Like, if you put me into a group, then that's putting a target on me. And she's like, I don't want to put a target. She's like, yeah, let's not spread this any further. Let's not make this a thing. Let's end it there. only for Angela then to kind of make it a thing. And this is also the problem too, where if it wasn't Angela, if it was almost anybody else in this situation, it never blows up to the point where it was, right? If this was almost anyone else, they would be able to have this conversation with Quinn, they'd be able to have this conversation with T-Core, and nothing would come from it. But this is Angela. And you almost have to handle her with kids' glove, which is why I kind of put the blame on some other people in this situation too. But let's break down what happened here, because some of it we saw on feeds where she goes to grab Quinn. We saw her taking the jab at Lisa, which, by the way, we still have not seen anything about the Lisa and Angela fight that happened off feeds. That we only saw bits and pieces of. That one, I imagine, is much worse than whatever was happening here, because they've still yet to show or even acknowledge that on the episodes. But we saw her take that jab as she grabbed Quinn to go to the bathroom. Angela then went into her whole spiel about how, Quinn, like, why did you go tell this information? You're the only one I told this to, because obviously she knew it came from Quinn. And Quinn's like, well, no, I just, I wanted to get us all on the same page. T-Core was listening in. She comes in pretty quickly. That's when feeds cut and we actually get more of the conversation and how it went. And again, like, I don't want to, because here's the thing. T-Core would have every right to feel upset if someone was placing her into a group just based on the color of her skin or her nationality or her religion or her sexual preference, whatever it would end up being. Anytime someone be put into a box and placed into a group that they weren't involved in, and it's all based on that, you could feel uncomfortable by that, right? Or even if there was a perceived notion that that's what the person was saying, you could be upset about that. It feels weird when it's actually true though, right? Like, if there wasn't an idea of, oh yeah, let's actually look out for each other, and there wasn't an actual alliance, like with Kyle, that's what made the Kyle situation so out of pocket. It wasn't that Kyle was grouping these people together based on their backgrounds. It was that Kyle was basing this on no evidence at all. And in fact, the closest I could come to an example of this season would be like suggesting that Tucker and Lisa have a final two. Of course they don't. Tucker hates Lisa. It'd be absurd to think that they would have a final two. That's kind of what Kyle was doing with people like Taylor and, what was her name? The Muffin Girl. The Muffin Girl. You guys know who I mean. Like, they hated each other, right? So, like, you're not going to get them all working together. It just wasn't going to happen. And here, though, 3 of the 4 people that Angela pointed out, they were working together, right? Like, it feels like to me that maybe T-Core was taking advantage of that a little bit. Now, that being said, I don't think the way she went about the conversation would have went poorly with anyone else in the house. But we're also talking about Angela. And one thing you have to consider with Angela is she probably already got warned about her behavior because of the whole Lisa thing. The fact that we haven't seen anything about that on the episodes, to me, says they told Angela, hey, knock it off. She hasn't seemed to knock it off much, and that's on her. But she probably has that in her head. And then she has T-Core coming to her being like, hey, kind of makes you seem like a racist when you're grouping us together like this. When she's already probably thinking people are going to be calling my job, which they were. It's one of the reasons we didn't get feeds a lot, is because could you imagine? People already were calling her job over the crazy ice thing. Like, she called out Matt, Leah, and MJ last week, and people were already on her. They were already trying to get her canceled. They were already trying to get her fired. And what do you think they would have done with even more of this? Now, that said, it did also kind of leave to way more speculation. People thought this situation was a lot worse than it really was. And really, in the end, it didn't end up being that crazy of a thing. It was just that Angela didn't handle being confronted this way about it. And she also didn't handle the whole situation. Nobody handled this situation good. But I also want to say, nobody in this situation, I think, is really evil either, right? Like, I don't think anybody was coming at this with malice, even if they actually put Quinn as this kind of like scheming mastermind edit with it. I don't think he went into it thinking, ooh, I'm going to get them all worked up and fighting over this. I just think it was like, well, yeah, I mean, I'll tell T-Core that, Angela's talking about her, right? Maybe we could stir up a little drama that way, but I don't think he ever thought it would go the way it would. It's it's just an interesting, complex situation where it does show a lot of social dynamics that can happen in the real world coming into the game. It also just kind of sucks when that kind of thing gets brought into the game, because I'd rather it just all be about like what's going on in the house at the moment. But sometimes you can't avoid those situations. And it's kind of what I talked about with Big Brother kind of turning off the feeds. We have Angela reacting in a certain way because she's more fearful of the backlash of that kind of a comment and that kind of perception of her in that moment than she is of what's actually happening in the game at that moment. And a big thing is too on T-Core's end. Yeah, I'm kind of saying like, hey, even if you feel some type of way about this, it's probably in your best interest to kind of Big Brother conversation this instead of going after Angela, being like, you could see why, in past seasons this is an issue, and basically accusing her of that. Once you throw that kind of things out there, you have to be responsible. You can't just nilly-willy throw that thing out there, right? Like, you can't say, oh, you're a this, you're an ism, you're a that. You can't just do that anymore, because it can just, people won't listen to whatever the actual argument it is anymore. They just listen to what the accusation is, which is another reason why we're going to talk about something else that T-Core was involved in with Tucker. We mentioned at the start of the show, and I think it's also kind of an issue. Again, I don't want to be hard on anybody because it's Big Brother. They're crazy people in a house doing crazy things for $750,000. My point here is never to say anyone is in the wrong. I think everybody kind of misunderstood each other here. In the long run, it actually got handled as best as it probably could. Do I wish Big Brother could have been a little bit more clear with everything going on? Yeah, but I also understand their fear. It's the same fear that Angela had in that moment when she was confronted with it. Anyway, let's move on. Some other things that we saw was Tucker volunteering to be a pawn. He thinks twice about it, though. He says, hey, like, MJ's got this power that I just kind of found out about. We saw actually him confronting her in the shower, and that was kind of fun, because that was a great convo on the feeds. And she was like, I don't have a power. But then we see her in the DR. She's like, I have a power. That's not it, but I have a power. It's like, ugh. Ultimately, though, he does go up as the replacement. And that leads us to where we are going into tonight's episode, where it will be Angela, Tucker, and Lisa vying for the AI competition. Two of them will end up being the nominees on the block at the end of the night. That kind of takes us into what happened on the live feeds yesterday. And there's actually a decent bit of kind of backstabbing and stuff going on. First off, let's talk about Tucker. We ended yesterday talking about how Tucker found out about Quinn's power from Chemo. Chemo fully confirmed everything about it. And we saw him filling in a couple other people about it, but not fully. We saw him talk to Rubina, and this is someone who I think he's really close with the game. I think Tucker's number one ally is Rubina. I truly do think he trusts her the most. He tells her in this conversation, I trust you the most. And he then says, I know who has the power. It's not Lisa, and it's scarier than the other one. Right? So, like, he doesn't fill her in all the way that we see. He might have filled her in later. This might have just been like the initial conversation where he's like, I got more to tell you. But he did start to fill her in a little bit on that. He also tells Chelsie this, and he tells Chelsie, like, listen, I'll whisper it in your ear. Like, if I leave, I'll fill you in. So he is kind of spreading some of those seeds out there as well. So interesting to see how this all kind of goes. Talked about it yesterday, though. I wish the new rule going forward would be if you get a secret power, it has to be secret. If you tell anybody, you lose it. It feels like every time somebody gets a power, they tell somebody else, and then it just doesn't end up having that fun factor that we really want to see from it. Half the fun of these secret powers is that shocking moment of when they're used and people go, "What?" And that's we're losing that. We're losing that. Some other interesting things, seeing as we were just talking about Chelsie getting filled in with the power, there was a fun chat with her in her HOH room all by herself where she was just going off about Lisa and the flirting with Cam. How it was so quickly after they just voted Matt out, and you think that Cam like didn't fill you in and filled you in, but she's so quick to go and flirt with Cam. And man, I don't know, just Chelsie. There's so much about Chelsie that I love. And then there's so much about her that it's like, oh, I'm a little disappointed. And I feel like her HOH reign, many don't agree with me. I don't think her HOH reign, one, was something that she should have done in the first place. But two, I don't think she really used it to her best ability. I don't think she made enough solid alliances and connections. The only people she really kind of managed to pull in was Leah and MJ, but she sees Leah and MJ's as her like next number one targets going forward. So it's I don't know. It feels like she got numbers, but those are the numbers she wants to cut right away. She is, we'll talk in just a second, doing a really good job of kind of making sure she plays both sides though. And we'll get to that in a minute. But one of the things that was like, all right, you pulled me back in a little bit, Chelsie, is she's very self-aware. And I like people who are self-aware of themselves. And she says, listen, people don't want to follow a leader who's right. They want a leader who's real. She said, I'm not real. I'm not right all the time, but I'm real. And I kind of like that, right? It's almost kind of what I was saying the other day, where people don't remember what you say to them. They remember how you made them feel, right? Like that's what they connect with, not anything else. And I don't know. She kind of pulled me back in with that one. Speaking again with Chelsie, we had another interesting thing that took place because Joseph has been flirting with the other side. If we pull up our allegiance chart, which actually made a few little adjustments here, you'll notice he was much closer to like far on the visionary side over there with Chemo, T-Core, Tucker, Rubina, Quinn. That even that like that 5-person group that we saw form the other day as well. He was much further on that side. I've moved him much closer to the middle, again, because he's still holding on to the collective. We can bring up our alliance chart. Collective, it's real small there. Like nobody really buys in it anymore, except for Joseph. Joseph's like the only one who's holding on to it right now. Uh, Joseph was approached by Rubina about, kind of working together with that side of the house. He then went and filled in Chelsie about all this. And he's like, yeah, like, I don't know. Like, what do you think about this? Chelsea's like, I'm kind of down, right? Why not? And he's like, even like without Cam, right? And he's like, well, Cam, I think is actually playing us. She's like, I think he's using us for safety. So whatever it is. And, they both kind of say, all right, well, you know what? Let's just play both sides. Let's, go along with it, right? Why say no? And we'll do it like that. Meanwhile, Quinn and Chemo, they're not 100% sure about Chelsie in the first place. TKT Core, she really wants her in, right? She really trusts Chelsie. But I actually don't think Chelsie would be somebody that they want to bring in because I think she'll end up being more loyal. But after that Joseph conversation, maybe she is a lot more willing to cut from Cam and Cedric in these situations. I'm not 100% sure that's what she would want to do, but it is a possibility that we could see that happening. And then again, another really kind of just weird thing that happened. We had Chemo and T-Core going over the possibility that Tucker needs to go before jury. Now, this was all being pushed by T-Core. Chemo was pushing back on it. He was like, oh, I don't know. I kind of think we want Tucker on our side. And she says, I just don't like the way Tucker thinks about the game. And very specifically, she went on to say he thinks of the game very much like the older seasons do, that were largely problematic. And she actually brings up Taylor being bullied. So what do you mean by older seasons? Like 2 seasons ago? I don't understand here, T-Core. And this is why I then start to think about how she handled the Angela situation. And I start to wonder if T-Core's kind of throwing out like these like victim blamey kind of situations. And I don't want to think of that of T-Core. I don't. But when I see both of these situations taking place, I don't know what else to think, because Tucker is not problematic. Yeah. Does he hate Lisa? Sure. Does he make fun of her a lot? Yeah. He's not going and like doing it to her face and like being like how they were with Taylor. Daniel was going right up into Taylor's face. Like, not only were they doing it behind her back, they were doing it to her face. And it's not even close to the whole Taylor situation, because that was a group of people all going in on Taylor. That said, is that also how you see the game, T-Core? That, you know, hey, if you get bullied and stuff like that, you should win. So are you basically saying that Lisa should be the winner of this game if she stays? Is that what we're trying to do, Big Brother? And I just don't, I can't go along with that. If that's how she's viewing the game, if that's how she's trying to play the game, I don't like that. It feels dirty. And I'm somebody who's like, yo, you do what you got to do to win that game. When you start doing things like this that other people couldn't pull off, like T-Core can get away with this. T-Core can go and say these things, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be that much of an issue for people. If Tucker was going around trying to say that T-Core was being problematic, he's not going to get away with that kind of thing. He can't pull that off. It's one of the reasons why, and I know a lot of people here don't watch Big Brother Canada, it's one of the reasons why I was so turned off by Hope on BB Can 11. He snuck in a letter. It came in with some of the clothes that his family sent in. It was like a letter that was like shoved in a sock. He then used that letter in his game to get others to be like, oh, I'm homesick, you know, throw the veto to me. And he was able to win veto that week, and then used it, and the person who threw it to him ended up going up on the block. But they only really threw it to him and only actually let that kind of happen, and they worked with him and told him so much information because he had this letter that nobody else had. Like, the fact that he had this was an item that no one else had access to in the game. He was using that. It feels different because people tried to compare it to when someone like Kevin Jacobs used his wedding ring as like a bargaining chip in the game. It wasn't really a real wedding ring, but it was something he brought in. Yeah, but anyone can bring in a wedding ring. No, they don't tell you, hey, you're not allowed to bring in a wedding ring. You know what they tell you you're not allowed to bring in? A handwritten letter. And while this isn't exactly the same situation, it does feel like these are things that T-Core can use for her game that no one else could really get away with and say. And that doesn't feel right. And I don't know. I just don't like how that came out. Maybe I'm misreading and misunderstanding what T-Core was trying to say there. But to me, it felt pretty clear that she was trying to say that what Tucker does is problematic, and he thinks of the game like that with, you know, that you can like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But either way, I think we can all, like, Tucker's not problematic. He's just a dude who doesn't like Lisa. Nobody in the house likes Lisa, and there's reasons not to like Lisa. His complaints about her are very valid, that he doesn't want glitter in his food, that her food's not good. Like, she's also complained about his food. Like, it's not just like it's a one-sided thing. Like, she takes digs at him. I don't know. I just didn't like it, and it didn't sit right. And I could tell it didn't sit right with Chemo. Like, Chemo just kind of, Emo was playing Big Brother. He's not going to tell you like, hey, whoa, like that's not okay. But he'll just be like, yeah, I don't know. I think maybe we should keep Tucker. I think Tucker's good for our game because, you know, he can keep her safe. And then TK was, oh, okay, yeah. Like, I'll go with it. I don't know. It just didn't feel right. And I just, it's a thing. Other than that, though, we should see with tonight's episode being the eviction, we should see either Lisa or Angela be the one to leave. Angela if Lisa wins AI Arena, Lisa if it's ends up being Tucker or Angela who wins. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments down below about the eviction, all the stuff that happened on the live feeds. Again, we do have the eviction tonight. It'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll be live right here on the channel, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, smash that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. And we'll be here live reacting to that second live eviction of the season. Thank you guys all again so much for watching, and I will see you tonight.
I only have one secret.
Yeah, which is?
My recipe to my chimichurri sauce, and my mother doesn't even know it.
Oh, geez.
I knew it.
But
But other than that, open book.